I'm Dave Ganskopp of the Eastern Oregon Ag Research Center with an Eastern Oregon Ag Minute. Grass, water, and cows are the three basic ingredients needed by one to earn a living on Eastern Oregon's rangelands. While we grew exceptional crops of grass this year, and we're past the hottest season of the year, water for our stock is becoming limited because many of our smaller ponds or impoundments did not fill to capacity. To keep our cattle on the range, we have to assure reasonable access to water, and in some cases that may mean we have to truck supplies to tanks in remote areas to keep from bringing the cows home early. Given our best laid plans, a whole array of things can happen, like blown engines and downed pumps, that can complicate life. That being the case, we're going to talk about cattle water needs and the repercussions that restricted water supplies have on rangeland cattle in the coming days. This week we're looking at some research that Forrest Sneva and Larry Rittenhouse did in the past on how cattle respond to limited water supplies on rangelands. In the ideal world, we want cattle to have ad lib access to water, that is, they can drink all they want, anytime they want. In the spring months when forages are green, a 1,000-pound cow would get about half of her water supply from the forages she consumes. Later in the summer, on dry rangeland grasses, a 1,000-pound cow will need about 15.5 gallons of water per day to keep herself and her calf going. If our stock ponds do indeed dry up, one is faced with hauling hundreds to thousands of gallons of water to remote sites to keep their stock out on the less expensive rangeland forages. Over the next 3 days, we'll talk about how cattle can compensate for variable watering schedules or restricted supplies. Occasionally in late summer, one is faced with watering rangeland cattle while simultaneously handling all the other mandatory ranch chores. With time in short supply, how do cattle respond to an every other day watering schedule? Research at EOARC by Rittenhouse and Sneva suggests that cattle will quickly adapt to a restricted watering schedule if one always shows up on time. Some of the cow's responses are that she will drink about 35% less total water than if it was available free choice. Despite this, she will gain about 1/2 pound more weight per day than a cow with water freely available. It is her calf that really pays the price, however, because the cow decreases her milk production on a restricted water supply. Instead of gaining about 2 pounds per day, calf gains will dip to about 1.5 pounds per day, and this can cut into one's profit margin when sale time comes in the fall and calves are 30 to 50 pounds lighter than expected. Often during drought, or at the end of summer when stock ponds dry, cattle are forced to walk long distances between forage supplies and water holes. Ideally, textbooks tell us cattle should not have to trail more than a mile to reach water. Sneva and Rittenhouse conducted some studies at EOARC where cow-calf pairs and heifers were forced to travel 1 to 2 miles to water each day. Cattle that did not have to walk long distances typically went to water twice a day. Cattle that had to walk 1 or 2 miles watered once per day, drank about 25% less water per day, and did not rest near the watering site, and had the same gains as cattle with water freely accessible. Trailing and their reduced water intake, however, again contributed to lower milk production by cows, and their calves gained less per day than cow-calf pairs with easy water access. From a production standpoint, every rancher wants his cattle to have frequent and easy access to water. Pumps or windmills go down, pipes burst, tank trucks have flats or blown engines, and stuff just happens. Several years ago, Sneva and Rittenhouse did some research at EOARC to see how yearling cattle responded to being off water for 2, 3, or 4 days. While it's certainly not desirable because of welfare concerns and weight losses, yearling cattle endured a month of watering every 3rd day or once every 72 hours. A 4-day treatment, or 96-hour period, however, was very hard on the animals, and some cattle went down with signs of water intoxication about 6 hours after drinking. In such an extreme case, one should stay and watch their stock for 6 to 8 hours after cattle access water. For more details on these stock water issues, one can call or stop by Eastern Oregon Ag Research Center and ask for station reprint number 167 on stock water's effect on cattle performance on the high desert. I'm Dave Ganskopp, and let's be careful out there.